I was destined to do this DewDrop devotional in your 70th year. Yeah, well, during the height of the pandemic, there were some of us who were still looking to see how we would exit from the pandemic, how we would come out. And so I was inspired to come up with not a green light project this time, but what I called the Theonomics program. And the Theonomics program was, or is, a pre and post-COVID prosperity plan. A pre and post-COVID prosperity plan. And part of that plan, which was put on paper on the 1st of May, 2020, involved DewDrop. This is the graphic that my wife has been working on for the Theonomics plan, the pre and post-COVID prosperity plan. Now, you can't steal this. You can't steal this idea, because my DewDrop means Dew, D for diet, E for exercise, and W for water. That's my DewDrop. This is done since in April 2020. So I was destined when Penny contacted and contracted me and indicated that I am being asked to fulfill the DewDrop segment of your 70th anniversary. She was directed. The second substantial reason why this has been destined, today marks 7 years since I rode to France. Yeah, when I was living at Bassett Adventure and pastoring on the Lower East Coast, before we acquired a vehicle, I used to ride and do my visitations till to Plaisance. And so I had a bit of riding in me in that sense, but to ride 200 plus miles from England to France. So it was on the 25th of May, 2014, 7 years ago. There's the helmet. I should have had pictures put up and so on, even the message, which is taking some time to come to. I should have had PowerPoint. But it was on the 25th of May, it was a Sunday, 7 years back, 8:30 a.m., just four of us, departed Tower Bridge, London. I hope I'm being seen. 4 of us departed Tower Bridge, London, 8:30, and arrived at the Eiffel Tower, France, on Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. When we got to the Eiffel Tower, the heavens just broke like a woman's water bag and drenched us as if in honor and in celebration of our feat. I haven't told this feat quite often, although I should, something to brag about. So this week marks the 7th anniversary. Victoria, better known as Belfield, is celebrating 70 years. And I have been living 60 of those 70 years. 60 of those 70 years. So it is not coincidence that I stand this Tuesday morning thanking my brother for introducing our DewDrop message from Joshua chapter 1. This certainly, in my instance, isn't coincidental or happenstance, Pastor Ando. This seems to be very, very frighteningly prophetic or providential. Nonetheless, I grasp the privilege of being able to share, even though I may and have already held you long enough, but I'm happy to say that I could say good morning, and it's morning here, and it's morning in Guyana, and you certainly are carrying a tight shift, running a very tight shift with your evening celebrations, and then you are required to wipe the yampi out of your eyes and to come to the DewDrop table. I pray that always, both ways, you are being blessed. And I did visit your Solomon's Temple in January when I was in Guyana. Brother George Vera took me around, and I was stunned when I saw the framework for your temple going up. I also had the privilege of speaking to your AY that Sabbath afternoon. I just popped in and I was asked to address your AY. At that time, Sister, what's her name, had just passed the very said Sabbath morning. Her name just eludes me, which it shouldn't, because the seniors of Victoria were my darlings, all of them. Sister Peters, I don't know which one of them were more darling than the other, but I think all were equally my darlings. I understand that Sister Peters is more out in Bobbies these days than in Victoria. So we have been acquainted, familiarized with the passage. The title for the 70th anniversary, Reconcile Robe for the Glory of God. I in no way will be able to address that theme. That theme is even beyond whoever you consider me to be. There is no way with a 40-foot pole I can touch that theme. No way. So I will just do what I can do, and maybe it will fall within the ballpark of your profound theme. Vacancy. Leaders need not apply. Vacancy. Leaders need not apply. And the theme or the punchline, as I preach from my home, which doesn't have the best circumstances, the theme or the punchline for the message is The Nerve to Serve. The message title, Vacancy, Leaders Need Not Apply. And the theme, or the punch line, The Nerve to Serve. It was 11th of August 2019. And Josh Fowler ran out from his home with his 10-year-old brother. For they lived overlooking the Liverpool Football Club training ground. And as it was, they would often see their stars going to and fro. And on this day, 11th of August, they saw one of their heroes exiting the training facility, and thus ran out to get his attention as he was driving off in his Bentley. The 11-year-old Josh, in his excitement to gain the attraction of his hero, ran into a lamppost, crashed into a lamppost, fell to the ground, busted his nose, and lay unconscious for some time. Fortunately, the accident was not as traumatic as it initially appeared to be. And the star who they were chasing, he saw what happened in his rearview mirror. And by the time neighbors ran out, picked up Josh, and was getting him back home, the star whose name I am deliberately withholding, whose name I am deliberately refraining from mentioning, swung round in his Bentley and went to the home of the young man, and himself and brother and father and neighbors were amazed, literally shocked to see that this celebrity could have had the presence of heart to come and see. And so what was shown, the star and Josh were taken out, were photographed. Josh with his bloody, broken nose being hugged by his icon. Bloody, broken nose. And the icon hugging him, checking out to see how he was. And his checking him out was lauded and applauded by the father, by the media. Moses, my servant, given all of the accolades, Pastor Mike Gillis, the curriculum vitae, the resume, given the academia of Moses, knowing what he had achieved, yet at his passing, he was referred to as, by God, as my servant. Not as an icon, not as a hero, not as having the most posts on Instagram and the most likes on YouTube. He was unceremoniously, Victoria, 70 years. He was unglamorously, somebody help the DewDrop preacher this morning. He was unglamorously called my servant. No handle, no robe, no crown. And then in giving that death announcement, of which Guyana is still very famous for, death announcement is a very popular pastime in Guyana. God then makes mention of Joshua. There's something in business. There's something in business, Victoria, and everyone else tuned in from wherever you are, called like for like. And like for like in business refers to sales that are compared from one period to a corresponding period in the previous year. Like for like sales, a comparison is done of the sales and production between one fiscal period to another, like for like sales. Well, this like for like concept, as we speak about vacancy, leaders need not apply, has also filtered down into sports. And so in soccer, a player may come off the bench to replace somebody in a similar position. A right back being substituted for a right back, like for like. They may not they may not actually have the same skill set in that position, but the position is still the same. Like for like is also seen in cricket, where a captain, as Mike begun the analogy, a captain may bring on a bowler that is similar to the one he has just taken off. Like for like. Well, to me, when God mentioned Joshua in the same breath of Moses, he was hinting at a like for like. Because remember, as was so properly read, Joshua was known as Moses' minister. Moses was God's servant, and Joshua was Moses' servant. And God was looking for a like for like. Somebody who could fill in this vacancy. A great vacuum had been created with the passing of the iconic Moses. And who could fill those enormous shoes? God looked around when he announced to Israel. He strongly hinted, Elder Gillis Sr., of a likely replacement when he mentioned Joshua in verse 2 as Moses' minister. He gave very strong DewDrop hints that Joshua was a prime candidate, a like for like, as Moses was God's servant, so Joshua was Moses' servant. But we need to make a distinction here between the two servants. The word for servant as used by for Moses to God is ebed. When it says, my servant Moses is dead, the word is ebed. And it indicates ownership. The word ebed, I have to ensure that I am in focus. I don't have my wife here. She keeps me in focus between the frame of this iPad. So you might lose me from time to time because of my enthusiasm. Ebed. Ebed is the word that indicates ownership. It means bond servant. It means slave. And ebed also means of low rank. The word minister in reference to Joshua's office to Moses is a different servant word, sharaf. Minister meaning servant. Dr. Cummins would know about that. Sharaf means high-ranking servant. The sharaf that Joshua was to Moses meant that he was directly and personally responsible to his master. And Dr. Cummins, as a minister of government, would be familiar with having a personal assistant. Dr. Cummins would be familiar with having a sharaf. I think Brother Hines was one of Dr. Cummins' sharaf, a personal aide. So there is that fundamental, somebody here, the 70th anniversary DewDrop Tuesday morning evangelist. There is a fundamental distinction, Pastor Anderson, between the Ebed and the Sharaf. And it is also exemplified in the royal household, as Mike alluded to my British origin. In the royal household, and still today, there is an office called the groom of the stool. Oh Lord, help me. Hope I don't cause you to be late for work today. The groom of the stool is equivalent to the Sharaf who Joshua was to Moses. The groom of the stool, and when you hear stool, the groom of the stool, it is just what you are thinking. The groom of the stool is just what you are thinking. And you are not thinking about a three-legged, you're not thinking about a three-legged stool. We are talking about stool. Dr. Cummins, as doctor, doesn't need to break that down for us when our stool is required for testing. I've gone too far already. So the groom of the stool was the most intimate of an English monarch's courtiers. You see, the most intimate. The physical intimacy of the role naturally led to his becoming a man in whom much confidence was placed by his royal master, and with whom many royal secrets shared as a matter of course. This secret information, which while it would never have been revealed, for it would have led to the discredit of his honor, in turn led to his, that is the groom of the stool, becoming feared and respected, and therefore powerful within the royal court in his own right. When we have information, it makes us powerful. And there are persons who pride themselves of being more in the know than others. And it is used as a bargaining chip, or they weaponize, persons are known to weaponize certain info that they become privy to. I hope I'm being clear. And so the groom of the stool, who was responsible for the bathing of His Highness and looking after excretion matters, shared this close relationship, this intimacy, as we just read. And this accessibility to royalty filled his ear with a lot of juicy things, which if the rest of the palace and the subjects of the realm knew, would discredit his or her highness, would embarrass them. And thus, the groom of the stool was feared for his ability or potential to release damning information, intimacies on the royalties. He was vaunted. That was the office that Joshua held. Dr. Cummins would refer to that as the charge d'affaires. Joshua was in charge d'affaires to Moses. He had Moses' ear, or Moses had his ear, intimacy. And so God was looking for a like for like when General Moses departed. I want us not just to dwell on the servant aspect as in Bible characters, but as we hasten along, it was the 21st of February, 2021. With 6 minutes of warm applause on the streets, balconies, windows, the whole country applauded for 6 minutes. Spectacular example of leadership and defense of humanity. And this was when Germany bid farewell to Angela. We Victorians refer to the Montfort girl as Angela. In Germany, it is pronounced Angela, Angela Montfort. Angela Merkel was applauded for 6 sustained minutes on the 21st of February, 2021. The Germans elected her to lead them, and she led 80 million Germans for 18 years with complete skill, dedication, and sincerity, like when Dr. Cummins was my first elder. She did not utter nonsense. She did not appear in the alleys of Berlin to be photographed. She was dubbed the Lady of the World, and who was described as the equivalent of 6 million men. During these 18 years of her leadership, of the authority in her country, no transgressions were recorded against her. She did not assign any other relative to a government post. Lord have mercy. She did not claim that she was the maker of glories. She did not get millions in payment, nor did anyone cheer her performance. She did not receive charters and pledges. She did not fight those who preceded her. Yesterday, Merkel left the party leadership position and handed over to those after her, and Germany and its German people are in the best condition ever. The reaction of the Germans was unprecedented in the history of the country. The entire population went out to their balconies of their houses and clapped for her spontaneously for 6 continuous minutes, a standing ovation nationwide. Germany stood as one body, bidding farewell to their leader, a chemical physicist who was not tempted by the fashion of the lights and did not buy real estate, cars, yachts, and private planes, knowing that she is from former East Germany. She left her post after leaving Germany at the top. She left and her relatives did not claim advantage. 18 years and she never changed her wardrobe. God be upon this silent leader. At a press conference, I ain't done with her yet, a female journalist asked Merkel, "We noticed that you're wearing the same suit. Don't you have any other?" She replied, "I am a government employee and not a model." At another press conference, they asked her, "Do you have housemaids who clean your house, prepare your meals, and so on?" Her answer was, "No, I do not have servants, and I do not need them. My husband and I do this work at home every day." Then another journalist, bear with me, asked, "Who is washing the clothes, you or your husband?" Her answer, "I arrange the clothes and my husband is the one who operates the washing machine, and it is usually at night because electricity is available and there is no pressure on it. And the most important thing is to take into account the possible inconvenience for the neighbors, which I'm not doing right now. Thankfully, the wall separating our apartment from the neighbors is thick. My own isn't thick here. She said to them, "I expected you to ask me about the successes and failures in our work in the government. Mrs. Merkel lives in a normal apartment like any other citizen. She lived in this apartment before being elected Chancellor of Germany. She did not leave it and does not own a villa, servants, swimming pools, or gardens." Angela Merkel, the now former Chancellor of Germany, the largest economy in Europe. Vacancy. Vacancy. If you're looking for perks, don't apply. Vacancy. If you're looking to be drooled over, to be pampered, to be serenaded, to be gushed over, don't apply. If you're looking for the oil revenue, to fill your bank account. Do not apply. If you are vacancy, if you are looking to have your personal vehicle fitted with a siren, do not apply. Vacancy, if you are looking for the government coffers to be your cash cow, to extend your largesse, your estate, do not apply. When one of the greatest offices became vacant, God's ad did not call for leaders. To interview. When that Grand Canyon vacancy that Moses left was made, God called like for like. A person who 18 years later in demitting office wore the same suit. This is not a put down on Dr. Cummings, who I'm picking on throughout this message, but I love Dr. Cummings as a minister. I don't know where is a wardrobe. It could be Harrods here in England. But Dr. Cummings can dress. Angela Merkel was known for her simplicity. But man, she could pack a punch. Vacancy. If you're looking for attention and to be the toast of the occasion, the champagne of the function, don't apply, Victorian friends. But like Angela Montfort Merkel, have the nerve to serve. Angela Merkel had the nerve to serve because all around her were leaders who were capitalizing on their servant position. That's who ministers, that is what minister means. Servant. A prime minister is the first servant. And Angela Merkel had many within and without that could have tempted her to seek luxuries and the perks of office at the expense of the people whom she had been chosen to serve. I come asking us, what is our motivation? What was my motivation? Even as I brag about visiting almost all Victoria members in my tenure. What is our motivation? do we have the nerve to serve? Joshua 24, our second to last text, and verse 29. For the first time, Joshua was mentioned as servant. And the word for servant in Joshua 24 and verse 29 is the same servant word used for Moses and God. Joshua is no longer referred to as Sharaf, as he was in Joshua 1 and verse 2. Come on now. But later down, after he had been patterning, and even as the leadership of Moses was patented or patented, by beholding, we become changed. Joshua 24 and 29 uses for the first time Joshua, my servant, Ebed. Joshua moves from being a high-ranking servant to a bond servant. A bond servant means that you are glued to your master. It is not a put down. It is not demeaning or condescending, Pastor Mike Gillis. The servant of God is not a put down. It is a bond servant. You're bonded with crazy glue, gorilla glue, every stick of the highest quality. The bond between the Ebed servant and God. There is no daylight. And so, as Moses knew all the mind of God, the secrets of God were given to the ear and the attention of Moses. So it became for Joshua. He became so tight and so riveted, like glamour cherry, and poor us, cruel us in Victoria and in South used to catch simple, tender birds with glamour cherry. Cruel. If you're still doing it, stop it. Well, there was that glamour cherry relationship between Joshua, who God had proclaimed and crowned as the successor to the celebrated Moses. Vacancy as we close. Kelda. Vacancy. Leaders don't even write that application. Vacancy leaders of the Most High don't even pick up that phone. If your intentions are self-serving and for personal aggrandizement, Pastor Anderson. And I say, therefore, Moses in Revelation 15:3, which we know to be in the New Jerusalem or something like that, was referred to as my servant Moses. We shall sing the song of my servant Moses and the Lamb. That title, that office, that endearing position has stuck like epoxy down through the annals of time. And so I say, have the nerve to serve. Have the nerve to say, serve like Dr. Cummings did during the turbulent election. Have the nerve to serve like she did, being professional and withstand her ground. I say, have the nerve to serve like William Shakespeare wrote poems. Have the nerve to serve like Michelangelo painted pictures. Have the nerve to serve like Diego Maradona played soccer. Have the nerve to serve like Brian Lara picked up a cricket bat. Have the nerve to serve. Serve at your best. Don't serve for performance and for the paparazzi. Have the nerve to serve with humility and dignity. And Kelda, when you have the nerve to serve, Matthew 25 says, God says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful in little, I will make you faithful in much. Have the nerve to serve. And when you have the nerve to serve, you will, my head may be a little too big for this crown, but this is lovely Kelda.
Hello.
Oh, you made a point. The point has been made. Reconcile, robe, and crown for glory. Amen.